Good morning, or I suppose good afternoon, everybody, depending on where you're tuning in from. Thanks for joining our onX office hours class for April. We'll get going in just a minute here. We'll let everybody get logged in and get situated. While we're waiting, just a couple of housekeeping items. Your audio and video are turned off, so no worries if you got noise in the background. We can't see or hear you. This class is being recorded. So if you miss something or you have to dip out early or anything like that and you want to go back and watch it, we'll send you an email tomorrow with the YouTube link so that you can go back and watch it and rewind. If you want to pause anything or rewatch any of the demos or anything, that'll be available to you. This is a kind of an ask me anything question and answer type class. I don't have any agenda or anything from my side I want to talk about. So the audience, you guys are going to kind of direct the conversation on this. If you have questions you want me to answer, please drop them in the Q&A box down below. You've got kind of two chat boxes. There's the Q&A box. That's the spot for questions. The chat box is more difficult for me to kind of scroll through and keep track of questions. So that's better just to kind of chime in and say, where you're viewing us from and things like that. The chat is also where, towards the end of the class, I'll post a giveaway link. We're giving away some of our new onX t-shirts we came out with this spring, kind of a turkey themed one. So we're giving away 10 of those. So pretty good odds in this class. And we'll throw that in the chat towards the end there. But I do see a couple of questions popping up there. So we'll get into some of the questions. Before I do that, I'm just going to pull up the map on my iPad here so that I can demo, for some of the questions that come in. So one moment while I pull that up. All right. So the first question here is about offline maps. Pat asks, how do you organize offline maps? That's a good question, one we don't often talk about. Organization of offline maps is mostly going to come down to your naming conventions. So this is just a test account here. So I've got, a handful of different offline maps, maybe a dozen. Let me pull that back up. You see some of them I've given names to, some of them just have the generic name. What I do on my personal account is I will give my offline maps a name and then I sort them alphabetically. So last September, I went on a sage grouse hunt with my dad in central eastern Montana, and I saved maybe a dozen different maps there. I just named them all Sage Grouse 2023 so that I knew where they were. I could find them quick alphabetically if I needed to. And you can double up on names so that they were, I had a dozen of them that had the same name because they were all in the same area. They were all kind of gridded out into a grid pattern, kind of like you see on some of these, similar to that. And that made it easier to find. I typically name my maps either by kind of a location or maybe a hunting unit. Like if I saved one for, unit 261 down here, I would just name the map 261 or unit 261, something like that. Or if I'm saving some, this is the Bitterroot Valley here, kind of in the central. I'll have like South Bitterroot, Central Bitterroot, North Bitterroot, something like that, just so that they're easy to find. Whatever makes sense to you is probably the right way to do it. Beyond listing them either alphabetically or by the date they were created, we don't really have any organization beyond that, but hopefully that's helpful to you. Shirley asks, how often do you update landowners? So that's going to depend on a couple of things. Mostly it's dependent on how often your county updates their data. So in a state like Montana, Montana has fantastic public lands data. They were one of the first states to digitize that and make it publicly available. That might be part of the reason why onX started in Montana, because we had such good data sets. State like Montana, we can update each county. I think we're doing it about once a month right now. Other states only release a new data set once a year. And so, a state like Wisconsin, if I remember correctly, updates theirs in like June or July. So in a couple months, we will get their June, July data, a lot of times that is still like 2023 data. So they'll go to December 31st, 2023. They'll work on updating that data set and then upload it in the summer. So again, this is state and county dependent. Some states have, all their counties update at the same time. Some it's more piecemeal. So if you bought a house in Wisconsin in February, we might not get that actual data from the state or from the county until next summer, unfortunately. Most states are faster than that. And I'm not saying that's exactly how Wisconsin is. That's just an example. That was the first one that came to mind. So it's at least once a year, though, is how often we update counties. If you do find something that you notice is wrong, I'm just going to tap on a parcel here. If, let's say, pretend this was your property and you know something's wrong, or it's not your property and you know something's wrong, you can tap on it. And then along the bottom of my screen here, there's this button that says report an error. So you can go, this is a private land error. Is the name wrong? Boundaries, acreage, all of it, right? Most often it's a name that changes. And then if you know the information, you can provide that to us and then hit that report errors button. That gets sent directly to, we have a whole crew of mapping folks who go through, we verify all of those. So we always check with, the government agency to verify, yep, this report is correct. John Doe owns it now. And then we'll make that change for you. So if you do see something wrong, let us know. We want to have the most correct map that we can. So that's a way to help us do that. Steve asks, onX hunt for Android Auto. So this has been something that's taken us a lot longer than we expected. Just yesterday, I got a message from one of our engineers that we are rolling it out right now for Android folks. So the way it's in the newest app version for Android devices. So the way those typically work is they roll out to a certain percentage of people over the series of like 6 or 7 days. So you might not have it available. You might not have the update available right now, depending on where you are kind of in that lineup. That's just kind of how Android updates work generally for apps. But barring any major bugs, within a week at the latest, you should see Android Auto available to you as long as you're on the most up-to-date version of the app. Doug asks, I can no longer find the leaf off view button. Does it still exist? It does. So you do have to be an elite member to have access to that leaf off imagery. It's an elite only feature. I'm going to move over to a state where we have leaf off imagery. We don't in Montana, but we do in Wisconsin. So I'm just going to zoom in a bit. To find leaf off imagery, in the lower right-hand corner of my map, you see those 2 buttons. The top one right now says HYB 2D. I'm going to tap on that. Yours might say SAT or topo, depending on which base map you have selected. And then right below your base map selector, there's the leaf off imagery button. So that's how you find that and tap it. If you're not seeing that on your end, double check you're on the most up-to-date version of the app. And then if you're still not seeing it, maybe take a screenshot and send that to us. Our customer support team, our customer support email, I should say, is help@onxmaps.com. So if you're not seeing it, screenshot's the best way so that we can see what you're seeing, and then our customer support team will get you taken care of and get everything situated there for you. Joe Lesmeister asks, can you show me the easiest way to locate the new path properties in South Dakota? I'm struggling, only found 2 so far. So there isn't a specific layer for those path properties. I'm gonna go turn on South Dakota here. So if I go into my layers, I'll turn on the walk-ins, the chat, I'm gonna turn on all of that. So they're mostly gonna be, well, I shouldn't say that. I believe most of them are East River in South Dakota and kind of that core pheasant range. We do have some West River. I believe it is, it's a statewide program. Let me see if I can find one here for you. I should have one of these marked. Let me see. I think we had one up by Aberdeen. I remember correctly. That's too far east or west, excuse me. So I am also struggling to find them. That is a deficiency in the system right now. They are listed under the walk-in area programs, and then they will, if it is a path program area, they will say path. There will be denoted in there. I apologize. I don't have one marked on my map here, and that is something we need to get better at, Joe, is having it more easily discoverable on the map. So hopefully by this fall, maybe we can make that a little easier for you. Apologies on that. Let's see. Question on the trail camera stuff. So yeah, we can talk about trail cameras here. I won't be able to demo every part of it because I don't have a trail camera here and all that. But if you're looking to use the trail camera feature within the app, along the bottom of my toolbar here, I'm gonna click on trail cameras. You see we did some testing. So these are all just kind of test dummy trail cameras that I made. But let's say I want to place a trail camera out in the field. I'm gonna hit add trail camera. I'm gonna give it a nickname. I'm just gonna name this Jack's camera. Pick the brand, say it's a Bushnell. Don't have a model right now, you don't have to add that. Let's say this is a cellular camera. It takes 8 batteries, and I have a 32 gigabyte SD card. You don't have to put all that information in there. It's just the camera nickname, the brand, and the camera type are required. You can always go back and edit these later, or if you don't know the batteries, you can add that later. So no worries there. Gonna hit next. It's gonna let me choose, is this in the field or not in the field? So right now, if you have a bunch of trail cameras that you want to put out, but you're not gonna put them out for another month, you can load them up in the app and just have them all be not in the field. That way, when you go out to the field, you don't have to go through that previous step of giving it a name and everything. It doesn't take that long, but if you're in an area where there's a bunch of mosquitoes or something, maybe saving that 10 seconds is worth it to you. So let's say this one's in the field. I want to move it. Let's just pretend I'm going to put it in this tree line here. When did I place it? Placed it today. If I want to give the location a name, I could do that as well. Maybe it's, at Jack's ground blind, or, Scott's tree stand, or something like that. Whatever makes sense for you. I do recommend putting what direction it's facing. That can be helpful, so you can see, maybe I just want it facing right down this tree line because there's a nice trail through there, something like that. You can change the color. A lot of this is similar to changing waypoint information. If you've done that before, I can change the color on my cameras if I want. Let's make this one green and then hit save. So that's one way to mark a camera. And that will work for any brand of camera, whether onX directly integrates with it or not. If it's one of the companies that we integrate, which right now is Bushnell, Covert, and Exodus, if you have one of those cell cameras, you can go through their app, so the Covert app or the Bushnell app, etc., and you can connect that to onX. I unfortunately don't have any cameras linked with this, with this device. I'm not able to demo that for you, but it's relatively straightforward. We also have info on our website on how to do this. You can link the camera, link the app to onX, and then go through, like I've done this with Bushnell recently on my personal stuff. Go through, set your trail camera, Bushnell app, you activate it, you mark the location, and then that can automatically place the camera icon on your onX once you've got them linked. And then you can also have the pictures sent directly to show up. They'll still show up in your trail camera app, but they'll also show up in your onX app. So you can kind of just go one-stop shopping, pull up your onX and view all of your trail camera pictures there. And you can delete them if you want to. You can download them to your computer, all of that stuff. So hopefully that answered some of your questions there, Matthew. Melody asks, hi there. Sometimes when I click on a parcel, it populates the acreage and owner info, and sometimes even for an adjoining parcel, it doesn't. Why is that, and can I correct somehow? So it could be a couple things at play here, Melody. You may be, depending on the parcel size, I'm going to find a town here to illustrate this. Oh, let's try here. Depending on the parcel size, you may have to zoom in a little bit. If you look at the town here, small town, South Dakota, as I zoom in a little bit, didn't mean to do that. As I zoom in, you see more parcels beginning to show. If it's a much smaller parcel than the one that you originally clicked on, it might not, we call it drawing on the map. It might not have drawn on the map yet. That could be one issue. It could also be, we do have some counties that don't provide us with a full data set. So there are times where they have 80% of the county mapped out, but not all of it. That could be what's going on there. Other than that, there is the potential there could be a bug in the data or something. If the two things that I suggested, if it doesn't seem like we're missing the data, or you just need to zoom in farther, again, send us a screenshot, and if you can include the coordinates of the area. So to get coordinates, if you tap on a parcel, they'll show right up at the top there, and you can copy and paste them. Send us an email so we can pull up. It's really helpful if we can pull up the exact area on our side to see what's going on there. Let's see. When I create an offline map, do I need to go to that map when in an area that's offline? Or does it show the info automatically? So I think I understand the question. So if you've got an offline map and you go into that area, all you have to do is either go into your offline maps, like I'm doing here, and tap that button that says go offline. That will pull up all of your offline maps. They'll all be visible to you. You don't have to then go select, this map and tell the map. It's going to load all of them up. You don't have to tell them load this map, not this map. Another option you could do, what I do most of the time, is I put my phone in airplane mode. That will automatically kick you into offline mode. And that's going to save you battery life, is the biggest reason to go into airplane mode. It's also going to eliminate any sort of wonkiness with the app, because the app is designed to kind of tell what your level of service is. So if there's no service at all, it'll automatically go offline. If there's great service, it'll want to stay online. If you're in that marginal range, we call it edge of service, where you have kind of 2 bars, 1 bar, where you've got service, but it's not great. The app sometimes does struggle to know, should I go offline or should I stay online? Most of the time, you're going to want to go offline, and airplane mode just kind of answers that question. There's no service coming into the device, and then it's going to load up those maps for you. When will Virginia maps be updated? Areas I hunt are showing mature pine trees that have been cut over and replanted and now 4 to 6 plus feet tall. So we are bringing on a new imagery provider this year. I believe in 2024, it's 18 states, I believe was the number I heard, that we will be updating this year, starting with, I think Iowa is our oldest right now. So we're prioritizing the oldest maps. If they're 4 to 6 foot tall pine trees, that were cut, that tells me they weren't cut last year. They've been growing for a few years. So I can't say for sure. I don't have a list of the states we plan to update this year, but if Virginia's not included this year, hopefully we can get it as soon as possible. I wish I had a better answer for you. Question on our hunt research tools. So that's one of our new elite features. If you're somebody who applies for tags in the West, hunt research tools is something to take a look at. And the question talks about searching by GMU. So that's a great question. It's not a feature we have right now, unfortunately. It's something I personally would love, especially kind of in Montana. I know the kind of units I want to apply for. I know them by number. So that would certainly be helpful. And I know that's something we're hoping to add to the hunt research tool. Won't be this year, but hopefully by next year. This year it's our first year. So we know there's room for improvement on a lot of those things. We wanted to get the tool out for everybody for this application season, and also so that we could gather feedback. So that is great feedback. If anybody has feedback on the hunt research tools, you can report it right in the hunt research tool. There's a feature for that. Otherwise, let us know. Customer support, all that good stuff. That's how we get better, is by taking your feedback and implementing it. Let's see. Michael asks, when looking at a complete hunting district in Montana, how do you easily see state land versus national forest versus private? Seems you have to drill down to see each type defined. You do, and the reason for that, Michael, is a couple of reasons, mostly due to trying to simplify the map, both for loading purposes and also to declutter it. Like if I'm looking at, let's just take unit 291 here. I'm looking at the whole thing, and this is going to depend a little bit on the size of your map, or excuse me, the size of your screen, the size of your device. I can see the whole unit here, and I can basically see sections of state land. Those are those blue coloration. The yellow in the middle there is BLM. And then as I zoom in more, you see more parcel lines start to show up as I zoom in. It's not a ton of small state land here. But you can imagine if you zoom out, I'm having a hard time finding an example here. The reason that we don't show every parcel at every zoom level is when you're zoomed out a ways, you can't really see it anyway, and the whole map would be nothing but lines. So you do have to zoom in to see some of those smaller parcels. Like if we look at this section of BLM here, as I zoom out, eventually that's going to disappear. I guess I got to get out pretty far, but you get the point. So you do have to zoom in a bit. You don't have to zoom in super close to see that, but generally if you're, at a zoom level, something like this, you should be able to see at least all the major parcels. If there's a section of state land that's 5 acres, you're probably gonna have to zoom in fairly close to see that, but most people are looking for, some of those bigger chunks. So hopefully that's helpful to you. Is the app update automatic, or do I have to go to Google Play for Android? So it depends on how you have your settings in your phone set, and this applies to Android and iOS. So app updates typically are automatic. You can turn those off. So some people have their phone set to not automatically update their app. In that case, you do have to go in and manually do it. Some phones also, if they're set for automatic updates, they'll only do it when the phone is connected to Wi-Fi, and they typically do it at night. So the reason for that is they try to do it when you're sleeping. You're not using any of the apps that are going to be updated, so it doesn't like automatically kick you out when you need it. So double check, your phone, how you have those settings set, but most of them are set to automatically update. Otherwise, you can always go in and do it manually. Just search for onX Hunt in the Play Store. And if there's an update available, it'll say so, and you can update there. David asks, what are the security measures for my account data? Are the waypoints I have saved accessible to onX staff? They are not accessible to us. We cannot see waypoints you saved. We cannot see offline maps that you saved. We cannot see your hunting spots. You know, if there was a way for us to see that, we wouldn't anyways. You know, that would be a huge violation of customer trust, and that would be, you know, that would it would just be, we're hunters ourselves. We would hate for somebody to see our, you know, where we have our hunting spots and places we like to fish and camp and everything else. We're not going to do that to you. Not that we even have the ability. We certainly don't. So your stuff is safe. Only you have access to it. You can choose to share that however you wish. You know, there's a way to share waypoints with hunting buddies and things like that. That's always been in the onX app. But as far as myself, Jack at onX, I can't go in and be like, oh, where's David go hunting? There's no way that I can access that. Dan asked, will you have an icon for cell phone coverage? Good question. That's something we have kind of talked about, is taking a look at, you know, Verizon, T-Mobile, all the different providers, their coverage maps, and making that available in the app. I don't know where we are in that process. That might be something we do in the future. Of course, those maps are, in my opinion, or in my experience, a little optimistic. I've been in places in Montana and Minnesota where I grew up where they said, yep, you've got 4G LTE coverage here. And I'm standing there and no, I do not have 4G LTE coverage. So I would really hate to tell somebody, hey, you're going to have cell coverage here, and then they don't. And then, you know, maybe they didn't have an offline map, or they were planning on using their phone or something. So we got to kind of figure out, you know, who has the best coverage maps and what's the most accurate. But that is something we may be able to do in the future. Let's see. Mark asked, this is a good question. I leave my PC web onX open during my hunt scouting so my wife can follow my activity, waypoints, routes, etc. Does the PC web update as soon as my phone app does? It does and it doesn't, Mark. So there's a couple things at play here. If you're marking waypoints and tracking yourself in an area without service, that doesn't sync up to your account until you reach service, right? Makes sense, because there's no way for, you know, the app to connect to the server to, you know, save your waypoints and things like that. It's only on your phone. If you are in an area with good service and you're connected to the cell network, you're not in airplane mode or anything, when you mark waypoints, those are uploaded to the server so that you can see them on other devices. If I'm just sitting here, or your wife, let's say, is just sitting there watching the computer screen, they're not going to automatically be popping up. She would need to refresh the map. So if you mark a waypoint and then shortly after she goes and refreshes the map, then it would show on that screen there. So that would be the way to do it. It's not automatic. You've got to do that refresh. And of course, you yourself have to have good service when you're doing those markups. Pat asked if property records note when they were last updated. We don't have that that data in the app right now, but that might be something we can do in the future. That's something I'll pass along. Jesse asked, I have an older onX SD card in my old handheld Garmin. I now use my cell phone with the app. Is it possible for me to get all of my old waypoints from the Garmin to my cell phone? Yes, it is. You do need to use a computer for this, and you need to use Garmin's Basecamp program. So the Basecamp program is a free download from Garmin. You may already have it on your computer. What you do is you connect your GPS to your computer, you open up that Basemap program, and you can take those waypoints from your GPS and download them to your computer. So you're going to download them as either a GPX or a KML file. And once you have that file saved, you can go to the onX web map and you can import them there to your web map. Once they're in your web map, like we talked about a little bit earlier, that'll automatically sync up with the server and they'll be available on your handheld device. It is a little bit of a complex procedure because you've got to use the Garmin system and then go to onX. Our website has, if you search for, if you type in like importing waypoints or exporting waypoints, has step by step on walking you through that. Of course, our customer support team can help you out with that. Again, their email is help@onxmaps.com. Dan asked, how do you find a line once you hide it? So here's a line I have. I'll show you how to do this. Let me see if I can hide it. I'll go into my content. I'm gonna go into lines. We'll use this one. So let's say I hide that line. It's gone from my map, but I didn't delete it, right? What you need to do is go into my content, open up that menu. I'm gonna tap on lines, and now you can see the one that's hidden. On the right-hand side, it's got that icon of the eyeball that's crossed out. I just tapped on that crossed out eyeball, and now my line is back there. So any hidden content, whether it's a folder you hid or it's one waypoint, one line, one track, etc., they'll all show in here if they're hidden. Like here I have a couple of waypoints that are hidden. To bring them back, tap on that eye icon and they'll be back on your map. Colby asks, I'm not sure I understand the situation here, Colby. It says 3D gets locked in the mobile app if it was selected before going offline. You cannot move back to 2D while offline. How do I unlock while offline? I've never encountered this, to be perfectly honest with you, Colby. 3D is not available while offline, which is, I think, the issue you're running into here. So if you get stuck in a situation where you're offline and 3D, which shouldn't be possible, but that's something I'll try to chat with the engineers to see if there's a way we can prevent that from happening. In the meantime, if the app's not letting you do anything, if you're offline and it's not letting you go back to 2D, I would recommend closing out of the app, doing a force close and reopening it. That should reset it for you, and then you should be good to go. But I'll do some more digging on that. That's a situation I've never encountered personally, or haven't heard it, in my days in customer service. But I'll do some testing on that. Tom asked, new two-state plan, new question mark. We have a two-state plan. So that is it's a premium membership. We have a premium 1-state and premium 2-state. So that's for folks that hunt 2 states, right? The elite membership gives you access to the whole nation plus Canada. We heard from a lot of people. They're like, man, I live right on the border of North Dakota and South Dakota. I hunt pheasants in both. I'd like to just have those two. So that premium 2-state, it's $45. And that is an option for you if you don't want to go up to the elite to get nationwide coverage and all the other tools and the imagery and the bells and whistles. If you just want the 2-state premium, that's an option there for you. Stacy asked, can you see unit borders in Colorado? Yes, we have units for all 50 states. Well, I should say that. I think it's 49 states. I believe Illinois is the state that, at least for like deer, they don't use units, they use counties, so we don't. But Colorado, if I scroll down, go to Colorado, turn it on, you can see my unit boundaries. If you have Colorado turned on and you're not seeing the units, that layer might have gotten turned off. You just need to turn it back on there. But that's what those green lines are. Those are the unit boundaries for Colorado. As you zoom in, it's going to give you the number for them as well. Rex asked, I have radius turned on and can't figure out how to turn it off. So I'm gonna go to a waypoint here. So this is our radius tool. If you haven't seen it before, it's a pretty cool option. I'm gonna set a radius for this waypoint. I tapped the wrong button there. Say 100-yard radius. So that's telling me, it's a 100-yard radius from that point. If I want to turn it off, I'm going to tap on the waypoint, and then I'm going to scroll to the waypoint radius. I'm going to hit that button, and then it's turned off. So that should turn that off there for your X just by hitting that slider button. So one more time, it's turned on. Looks like that. If I turn it off, it disappears. So hopefully that helps you. Matt asked, he's talking about trail cameras and wind direction. He says you can't set wind in the camera from that part, correct? You have to use a waypoint for that. That is correct. So our wind on a waypoint feature, I'll demo right here for this same waypoint. I can set the wind, choose my optimal wind. Let's say I want to hunt this stand on a north wind only. I can apply that. You can't do that for trail cameras right now. Maybe something we add in the future, but for right now, wind on a waypoint is only on waypoints. Jason asks, is there a way to turn off the angle setting that automatically turns on every time I load onX? I'm not sure exactly what you mean by angle setting, Jason. If you're talking slope angle, you can turn that off. So that's going to be in your layers. So in the land and access folder, I'll show you one more time. If I go into my map layers, you see my states, and I have my other folders. If I go to land and access, there's the slope angle. I'll show you this is what that layer looks like for the folks that have never checked it out before. It gives you the relative slope and how steep the land is. So if you don't want to see that, all you've got to do is go in and turn that off. If it's something else, Jason, let me know. If you're talking about something different, let me know and we'll take it from there. Ooh, Ron asked, any advice for spring turkey season in New Mexico? I've not personally hunted turkeys in New Mexico. I'm guessing you're hunting mostly Miriams and maybe Rios down there, which that's what we have in most of Montana is Miriams. I would say, depending where you are, try to locate, if you're in a real open area like we have in eastern Montana, try to locate some of those likely roost sites. If it's a real kind of deserty open area, they're more limited than where I am in western Montana. There's trees all over the place they can roost in. So try to nail down those roost sites. Turkeys do need water. If you can find a good water source that they're going to, then I would say move around a lot. They say Miriams they hit the ground with their track shoes on and they move quite a bit. And they don't have the same fidelity to a roost site that maybe an eastern does, where they might roost in the same tree every day. So cover some ground, call a lot, try to strike up some birds, and it sounds cliche, but have fun. I'm super stoked for turkey season here. Opens April 15th. I've been out scouting a few days already, and yeah, it's coming up fast. Let's see. So Matt asked, for the hunt research tools, is there a way to see differences between resident and non-resident? For example, I'm looking into Nevada for a hunt as a non-resident, and I'm not sure if I'm looking at residential draw odds or non-residential draw odds. I'm going to pull up hunt research tools right now on my computer. So give me one moment to get over there so that you can see. So I'm in the onX web map right now. If I go over to Elite Tools and click Hunt Research Tools, that will open that up for me. And then I've got to move my window out of the way here. So what you can do, Matthew, if you haven't already, go to my profile, and there you can set your residency. So I live in Montana. I have mine set. You can choose whatever state you're a resident of. And then Hunt Research Tools will automatically show you the odds, whether you're a resident or a non-resident. So for Montana, it gives me resident draw odds because I'm a resident of the state. For Nevada, which I do also apply in, it gives me non-resident draw odds. So as long as you have your profile set with your residency, it's going to tell you non-resident draw odds for the 49 states you're not a resident in. We don't have 49 states in there, but for the 10 states or so that we do have, and it'll give you resident for the state you're a resident in. Let's see. Jason asked, is there a way to change the opacity of the colors used to fill in areas marked? Yes, there is. So I'm going to go back to my map. And so if I mark an area using the area tool, I'm just going to get out to some national forest, so it's more of a blank map here. So if I draw an area real quick using the area shape tool, I can change the line color right now. So I can make that whatever I want. And then I can change the area color. That's going to be the fill. So as I'm clicking these, you can see some differences. I can also choose this one, which is no fill, which is what some people want, so they can still see the imagery there. So if I'm just going to pick this for right now, save it. If you've already got a bunch of areas saved, Jason, that you want to change the color on, click on it. This works on mobile as well. I'm just demoing on web, works on both. Hit edit, and then that brings me to that screen. I can change anything I want there. So that's how you change the areas that you've marked. You change the colors, change the fill. Let's see, Sharon asked about, there's been some properties that have been subdivided, surveys on file with the county. She did notice in Missouri, Missouri is kind of notorious for being a difficult state sometimes to get data out of. It says divided property lines show up in GIS maps, do not show up in onX. How can I get this updated? So that would be what I demoed earlier, Sharon, is just clicking on the parcel and then doing that error reporting feature. That would be the best way to get our mapping team with the information they need. So you would hit, private land. In this case, you'd probably want to go boundary lines and say, hey, right in there, this has been subdivided. It's on file with Berry County. We'll check with the county and see if we can get an updated data set from them to get those lines updated. Mike asked, can saving offline maps to SD card on my phone or tablet be implemented? Not an option we have, Mike. You do have to save it to your actual phone's memory. If your phone storage is getting full, try moving as much other stuff to your SD card as you can, any pictures or videos or things like that, to free up the memory for the offline maps. Those do have to be on your device's internal memory. We can't save to SD cards. Tom asked, any new chip updates for Garmin? So no, chip updates are over. We're no longer updating the onX Hunt chips. We're solely on the app and the web map right now. So unfortunate news a little bit for some of the Garmin users or the SD card onX Hunt chip users. The chip's still going to work. As long as it doesn't get damaged, it'll continue to show data. We're just not able to update those anymore. Colby asked, is there a hide all for pins so I can show my buddy the map without giving anything away or just to declutter? So yeah, what you can do you can go into my content, you can go into waypoints, you could select them all, and you can hit hide all on map. Let me see here. I just realized I'm sharing the wrong screen. Let me try that again. My apologies. All right, we'll get over to my iPad here so I can show you how to do that. So what I did here, let that pull up. I'm gonna go into my content. I'm gonna tap all content. On the left side here, I'm gonna tap that button that says select. And then there's an option to hide all on map. And that will hide all of your icons there. If you want to bring them back, you can hit show all on map. You can toggle them that way. Another option, I'm going to close out of this, is to make folders. And that's what I do, is I organize all of my content into folders, typically based on species. So I have an elk folder, a deer folder, a waterfowl folder, a turkey folder, etc. And then I can just hide that folder on the map if I want to. So that's what I do. Like right now, I have my deer, elk, waterfowl, pronghorn. Those are all hidden because I'm going to be turkey and bear hunting here this spring. So I have my turkey and bear folders turned on. Everything else is hidden. So that's another way to kind of get at the same thing. Tom asked about the 2-state plan. Can you change? Not a lot of detail in the question, Tom. I assume you mean, can you change states? Yes, if you have a premium 1-state membership or a 2-state, you can change the state. We typically allow that once a year. So like if you move or you draw a tag in a different state or something, you do have to email us, help@onxmaps.com. Let us know, hey, I've currently got Missouri and Colorado. I would like to change to Missouri and Wyoming. Our customer support team can make that change for you. We just don't have the option on the front end for you to be able to do that. We have to do it on our side. Let's see. Chris asked a good question. How do I draw a line at a specific direction and distance on the map? I am a surveyor and want to draw parcels on the map. The only way to do it is by eyeballing the direction and trial and erroring the distance. Is there an easier way? Yes, there is an easier way. So I'm going to zoom in on my location right now. So that's where I am. I'm going to tap my location button in the lower right-hand corner to center my location on the map. Once more, I'm going to tap that location button. And so this is how you get to kind of that heads up view where you see that blue sight cone coming off of my dot. So whatever direction, if I hold up my tablet and spin it around, you can see the map spins as well. Now, right above my base map button, again, lower right-hand corner, you see that button that looks like a compass. Tap that. That's going to pull up this view where you have kind of that gridded line coming out with some distances on the left. One more, it's a lot of buttons, but one more button there that shows is the one that looks like a rangefinder. So in the lower right-hand corner, that's the top one. If I tap that, now, let's say I'm going to situate my phone. It's pointing the direction I want to mark. I'm going to, let's say it needs to be, I'm going to zoom in a little bit. Let's say it needs to be 175 yards. Now I can tap the waypoint icon and mark a waypoint there. So you could do that for all the different, vertices of the parcel you're trying to draw, and then use the line distance tool to connect them. Like you're a surveyor, I will give the warning, onX is not a survey grade tool. We'll get you close. We are limited a little bit. Civilian GPS is limited to, I think it's like 3 meters. So if you're trying to survey out the exact lines, we can get you close, but it's not going to be like to stand up to to put a fence right on a property line or something, you're still going to need to, have it surveyed and stuff. But what I just demoed there should get you close, and hopefully that's what you're needing there. Mike asked, any plans for shared folders? I know I can share my folders, but is there any way to have a folder that multiple users can edit? So that is something we've talked about, kind of like if folks are familiar with using like Google Docs or Google Sheets, where you can have one document that a whole bunch of different people can be in and edit. It is something we've looked into. We want to make sure we do it the right way. We don't want to make something that's overly complicated for people to use. And we don't want to have a situation where, hey, I marked a whole bunch of waypoints and my jerk hunting buddy deleted them. I need to get them back. That's a problem we'd like to avoid if possible. So we've got to kind of figure out how to avoid any of those issues, but that is something that we are looking at, may be available in the future. Lori asked, in an area with no service, having trouble saving a map for new spot just found. So to save a map, you do have to have service. So the way I understand it, you're currently in an area with no service, you want to save a map. You can't do that. You have to have internet service to be able to save the map. What I would do is mark a waypoint on that spot. You can still mark waypoints when you don't have service. Even if you don't have a map saved, you can still mark a waypoint. And then when you return to service, then go back in and save that map for when you return. Matt asked, is there an easier way to find a hidden waypoint or track? There is not. You have to go into your content to find those. I don't know really of a better way to do it, unfortunately, because it's hidden on the map. You gotta just go through your content and find the ones that are hidden. Matt asked, how do you delete an area? So let me close out of this. So how to delete an area or a waypoint or a track, they're all the same. Tap on it or click on it if you're on your computer. So there's an area I drew a couple months ago. On the bottom of my screen, there's a button that says delete. Tap that, and you've deleted it. Chuck asked, when hunting an area with no cell service, is there a way that you can communicate with others in your hunting party or track their whereabouts? Not via onX. If there's no cell service, there's no way to connect to other cell phones. That's where you would probably need to use like a two-way radio or something, as long as it's legal in your area, or like a Garmin InReach or a Zoleo or a satellite communicator like that. I'm going to be willing to bet in the not so distant future, there's going to be fewer and fewer places without cell service. Both there's pluses to that and there's negatives to that, of course. I think we all recognize that, but right now, there's no way, if you don't have cell service, there's not really a way for onX to overcome that barrier. You have to have cell service to be able to communicate and to contact other members of your party. Let's see. I'm going to stop my share here for a second so that I am going to go into the chat right now. We've got some time left, but we are coming up on an hour. So I want to post the giveaway link in the chat. So if you click on that giveaway link, that will take you to the page where you can just fill in your information, and that will be open until about 3 o'clock this afternoon, Montana time. So I'll draw the winners of that and send everybody an email if they've won. We'll get those shirts sent out. Matthew asked a question here about mule deer. Most mule deer content I see involves some sort of mountain with elevation. I'm typically hunting in badlands where everything is nearly identical in looks. I've seen deer in many different areas, but I was curious if you have any insight on finding deer that don't migrate. Most of the land is identical to me. 1 year of mule deer hunting. Matthew, you're in a similar scenario to what I was. Last fall, I killed my first mule deer. Eastern Montana, plains, prairie, kind of badland, breaks type country. It is hard because they can kind of be anywhere. One thing I would do is, try to find places where they're likely to bed. They do still like to, kind of bed down where they have, sometimes it's some cover in some timber, otherwise a place where they can kind of see a long ways and hopefully smell as well. I am far from a mule deer expert. They do like some of that rugged country. If you can find places, and this goes for most animals, find places that are hard to get to, that are going to keep other people out. That's kind of a tried and true method of locating animals. Like any other animal, they need to drink. So you probably need to be near some water. They don't need to drink like an elk does. They can kind of go a little bit longer without water than say an elk, but they do need to drink. They do need to eat. If you're in an area where there's some ag lands around, mule deer love alfalfa. They love that type of agriculture. So if you can find some adjacent public, and then all they have to do is walk half a mile or a mile to get to some ag, that might be an option for you. Again, I apologize. I'm not an expert, but that's where I would start. Find those areas that might be overlooked by other hunters. Find areas that have some sort of diversity in habitat. If they can get bedding and food and water really close by, they're going to use that. They're going to try to save as much energy as they can. Let's see. We've got a bunch of questions in here still. Apologize. I'm not going to be able to get to all of them, but we'll try to go through a few more here. Here's a question from earlier. Carrie asked about, drew my first elk tag, doing a lot of learning and research. I want to learn more about glassing for elk, such as optimal times. I believe glass at sunrise, glassing the north facing slopes. So it is going to depend a little bit. Carrie, you did say if you're talking archery or rifle season. Archery season is typically going to be, some of them open mid-August through September is kind of that classic archery season, with rifle seasons typically opening in October through November. The good thing with elk is they are easy to spot. You don't need a high-powered spotting scope or super fancy glass to find them. They're big, bright, they almost look yellow animals, right? So, man, it's hard to say without knowing kind of where you are and what time you're hunting. Sunrise and sunset, they are going to be the most active. They will typically go to bed during the middle of the day, which if you're archery hunting can be a great time to actually hunt them, because they're going to be bedded down. A bull's going to be kind of tending his cows. He might leave to go to a wallow or a water hole while they're bedded down. Sunrise and sunset, if they're moving a lot, a moving herd of elk is tough to track down, but if you can kind of dog them and find out where they bed and then sneak in, that's a great option. Beyond that, as far as archery season goes, I don't do a ton of, I'll glass, but I usually have a pretty short, I pull that ripcord. It's not like when I'm bear hunting, spring bear coming up here, I'll sit all night in one spot and wait for a bear. With elk, a lot of times I'm going to want to move around more, partly because they are a herd animal. They are big. They are a little bit easier to spot. You can kind of, a lot of times, cross an area off the list. You can go through it and look for an hour. And, if you're a somewhat experienced glasser, you can say, man, I don't think there's elk here. Let's move to the next spot. So if you're just starting out, that's my advice is keep moving around till you find elk. That's the other thing, is they're either there or they're not. A deer can kind of be everywhere. They can kind of be spread out. Elk are going to more be in pockets. They're here and there's a bunch of them and it, or there's not an elk for a mile. At least in Montana, Northern Rockies, that tends to be the case. Let's see, we'll do a couple more here. Let's see. Colby asked a question on Terrain X not loading. This has been a persistent issue. Says he cleared the cache, multiple browsers used, no resolution. That's a new one for me, Colby. Usually clearing the cache or trying a different browser fixes that for you. Without seeing exactly what you're seeing, is it might just be like a white screen or something if it refuses to load. In that situation, we'd have to dig into kind of your account and look at some things on the back end. I don't have access to do that right now, Colby. Shoot us an email, help@onxmaps.com. We've got email support 7 days a week. And if you send us an email, our goal is to answer it within 24 business hours. It takes a little bit longer on weekends. We don't have our full crew working Saturday, Sunday. But if you send us an email today, you can expect a response. If not, by 5 o'clock Mountain Time this afternoon, tomorrow, you'll get an answer and they'll get it straightened away for you there, Colby. Jeff asked, how do you turn on fish? So some people might have noticed we are coming out with a fishing app this spring. It is its own separate app, much like we have onX Off-Road and onX Backcountry. There's going to be onX Fish. That is launching only in Minnesota right now. That is kind of our testing ground for the Fish app. So it's going to be exclusive to Minnesota first, and then we're going to expand to other states in the upper Midwest and out from there. So it's not available for download just yet, but if you're in Minnesota or you fish in Minnesota, that will be available in the iOS store later on this spring. Let me see if I can find any more here. Dave asked, can you fix the giveaway link? The last 3 seminars have been screwed up. So David, what's going on there is your device has cached that web page. You need to go in and clear your history or clear your cache. I just took a look and tested it again on my side. It's working for me. I think some other people said it's working for them. So I'll post the link one more time. Either clear your cache and history, use an incognito window, or try a different browser. It's a caching issue on your device. That's what's going on. So I apologize for the issues. I can't fix it on my end. It has to be something on your machine there. All right, we'll find one more here. Let me see, there's a few just responses to questions I had, a few things we've covered. Here's one from Kurt we can touch on. Any tips for improving search results? So let me pull up my map here. I'll run through, how to search some stuff. So I'm going to pull up my onX web map. Let me share my screen, and I'll talk about doing a search. So to improve search results, a couple things you can do here, Kurt. If you're looking for a private landowner, the first thing you can do is move your map to the area where that landowner owns land or where they live. I guess if they don't live on the land that they own, try to get as close to the land that they own that you're looking to find. The map, the onX map, will prioritize search results based on kind of where the center of the map is on your screen. So right now it's Missoula, Montana. So if I search for James Smith, just a random name, I think I heard somewhere that that's the most common name, at least male's name in America. So if I hit search, you can see my top results are for Missoula County. Then it goes to Idaho, some other spots in Montana. So you see they're all Montana, Idaho, maybe there's some Washington in there or something. If I was looking for a James Smith in New York, I would want to move my map over to New York, right? I would zoom out and move it over there. So that's one thing you can do. Obviously, if you're searching for the landowner, you may not know exactly where they live. Get as close as you can. The more you can help the map out, the better. If you're like, man, I know he's somewhere around Missoula, try to zoom in on Missoula as best you can. Another thing you can do, if you know the person's middle name or middle initial, if I do James D. Smith, now it's going to give me, there's none around me in Missoula County, but in Idaho, Washington, James D. Smith or Smith James D. Putting more information in there can help. Also, this is relatively new, this acreage option. If you know, I'm not looking for a city parcel. I'm looking for they own, a quarter section. I can filter it so that it only gives me parcels between 151 and 500 acres. So that's going to filter out a bunch of those as well. If you're looking for smaller, same thing. So that's kind of a quick and dirty of how to improve search results. Move the map as close to the area as you can. Provide it with as much information about the landowner or if you're looking for a location, I could search for Yellowstone. It might give me West Yellowstone. It might give me Yellowstone Avenue, Yellowstone Street. I want Yellowstone National Park. There, it's going to give me that. Same thing if you're looking for, you can search for towns, counties, lakes, all kinds of different landmarks. More info you give it, the better. And then for the private land, using that acreage selector can really be a big help as well. So we're a bit over an hour here. Apologize I didn't get to all the questions. Hopefully I answered most of them. We are doing these office hours about on a monthly cadence right now. So we do have one set up for next month. You can find future classes at the link I just posted in the chat there. We've got some turkey ones coming up here pretty soon where we're giving away over $3,000 worth of gear in those classes. We've done one already this spring. We have 2 remaining. So if you're interested in learning how to turkey call or seeing what kind of gear we carry in our turkey vests, we're giving away things like Woodhaven calls, a Weatherby shotgun, gear from Lacrosse, Mossy Oak, Primos, all kinds of great stuff. So check those out. And again, if you have any questions I wasn't able to answer here, give us a call or email us. Again, that email's help@onxmaps.com. Our customer support team will be able to answer questions that I'm not able to answer here. They're truly the experts. And with that, I want to thank everybody again for joining me and hope you have a good rest of your day and hope to see you on the next masterclass.